And we are live. Good afternoon to everyone. A pleasant afternoon to all of our viewers. Good afternoon to our Zoom participants. Hi and hello to our FB, LinkedIn, and YouTube viewers. So today is Monday. It's a marvelous Monday. So this is the start of our week-long series of e-learning sessions, of course, brought to you by Ariva Academy. My name is Irish Malonda Samson, your host, and please join me in welcoming our moderator, Mr. Howell Mabalot. Hi, Sir Howell.
Hello, good afternoon, Madam Irish. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, sir. 111.
Nice to see you again.
Thank you. How was your weekend, Sir Howell?
It's a laundry weekend, household chores weekend. What about
Okay.
you? How was your weekend?
Of course, with kids, Sir
Wow.
Howell. Okay. So please join me as well in welcoming our participants from out of the country. And they are watching from Jakarta, Indonesia, Tokyo, Japan, Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, Lalitpur, Nepal, Auckland, New Zealand, Singapore, Bangkok, Thailand, Abu Dhabi, and Dubai, United Arab Emirates. Okay, and let's start. In order for us to have a smooth flow of our e-learning session, here are the house rules. Who are the first time viewers of our webinar, please type in hi in the chat box now and let us know where are you watching right now. For those of you who are our avid viewers, so this is your second time, third time, fourth time to watch our webinar, please type in hello so we can acknowledge you as well, okay? So type in now, guys. Hello, Sharon, of course, Miss Sharon. Zyril, Jessica Abarquez, hello. Daisy. Hello also to Antonio, Arvin, Pasita, Ian Kevin Balete. Sir Nex Laideros, hello sir. Ferlane Avila from Laguna, Leia Mojica. Welcome to our e-learning session. Paulo Rivera, hello. Maria Luisa Abeleda and Sunny Adjoha. Okay, let's check on our YouTube page. Casey Morales, good afternoon. Hi, Mitch, and to our Ariva family who are watching right now. Vanessa Torrente, Nati Buson, and Julian Aleli. Okay, let's do a sound check. You will be needing a good quality headset. Please type in 111 to show if you can hear us loud and clear. From Ian, 111. Sonny, Arlene, thank you. 111. Estefania, Ramil Ballesteros, 111. Shirley, Mark. Okay. So far, 111, Sir Howell. We're all loud and clear and audible. Type in 222. If you cannot hear me, you cannot hear us. 2121 means the sound is breaking up or there's a lag. And question mark if you don't understand anything. Okay, so far, 111. Thank you. Miss Gina Narvaez, thank you. Okay, participants' microphones will be temporarily disabled by the administrator during discussion to avoid interruptions. Questions will be entertained after each topic of the session. For questions and clarifications during the provided time after each topic, please click the raise hand button for the administrator to enable the microphone for live questions. Type in your questions at the Q&A box. One question at a time will be entertained. For comments and feedback, please scan this QR code. This will be directed to our feedback form. Please send us your comments, suggestions, and topics to discuss in order for us to have a smooth flow of our e-learning session. And now, I know you're very excited to meet our speaker for today to discuss entering the new normal, emerging office and workplace trends in the time of COVID-19 pandemic. Mr. Howell Mabalot, please introduce our speaker today.
Definitely. Thank you, Miss Irish. We're very much excited to hear from our speaker for today, who is the proud Filipino winner of the hit Asian reality TV show, The Apprentice Asia. For winning the show, he served for 1 year as Chief of Staff of AirAsia, reporting directly to Malaysian business mogul Tony Fernandez, based in Kuala Lumpur. Born and raised in Manila, he is a multi-awarded marketer and HR professional with over 10 years of experience in Southeast Asia. Dubbed as Asia's Millennial Guru and World-widest motivational and marketing speaker. He is the author of three best-selling motivational books, From Grit to Great, Fast Forward, and Single Taken or Building My Empire. Today, he is the founder and managing director of his marketing consultancy firm, the JY Consultancy and Ventures, which offers marketing and talent optimization services to startups and Fortune 500 companies in Asia. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, and with much pride to introduce, please give it up for Mr. Jonathan Yabut. Hello, Jonathan.
Thank you, Noel. Thank you also, Irish. Hope you're having a great afternoon. Hello,
We
everyone.
are. Hope
Okay,
you are too.
I am. Thank you, Howell. I hope you're also having a great day, great Monday.
Yes.
All right, before we start, guys, I'd like to gather energy from everyone in the room. Could you please give me an exclamation point? Show us some love. Very good. Thank you. There you go. So our session for today is entitled Entering the New Normal, Emerging Office and Workplace Trends in the Time of COVID-19 Pandemic. This session is perfectly designed for HR managers, especially for those who need to operationalize offices and workplaces. And perhaps if you're a hiring manager and you're one of the management or leaders of a company and also involved about the health, the well-being of the employees, this session is also great for you. I'd like to know more about the participants. Could you please type? Is there anyone in the room who's from HR, for example? And maybe you could share also the companies that you guys are from, just so we get to know more about each other. And I'm talking about folks who are in the Zoom. If you're also watching from YouTube, if you're watching on LinkedIn, for example, will be great. All right, very good. I'm seeing a lot of HR folks, which is good because that means we're in the right room. This session is intended for you guys. Very good. We have folks from different parts. Marivic is from the Tourism Promotions Board. Very good. HR from Isuzu Philippines for Lane. Okay, I'm reading that also from the Zoom. Okay, let's start. So a quick introduction of what we do. We've had so many partnerships with Ariva Academy since March 2020 for our webinars. This is our company, JY Consultancy and Ventures. We are Asia's leading consultancy firm when it comes to digital marketing. And also, of course, we conduct a lot of talent management sessions, whether it be about public speaking, reading body language, leadership, how to manage the millennials, how to execute webinars, for example, which we are doing with Ariva Academy soon in a few weeks from now. Our headquarters is in Kuala Lumpur, and these are some of the clients we've had in the past. If you guys are also familiar, your company's logo may be in this slide. So we've conducted our workshops not only in Southeast Asia, but as far as Buenos Aires in Argentina, as far as in New York in the United States. So if you've been part of our clients since 2013, thank you very much because you've been part of our growth and you've been part of our history. For those who also follow us, our free webinars are available in our website. That's jonathanyabut.com. You just need to click the buttons that shows free webinars. You can also download the handouts, and all of those webinars are recorded for your viewing pleasure. So our topics range from leadership, how to manage visibility. We have a recorded one, even also from Ariva Academy. If you go to their YouTube page, you can watch some of our webinars there. And of course, our best-selling webinars, how to speak confidently at work and level up your business writing skills. That's the website. Take a screenshot. You can also take a photo of our website, guys, if you want. And of course, plugging. These are some of our recorded free and premium webinars happening for the month of May, June, and of course, soon we'll be announcing our sessions also for July. Time flies so fast. I remember we were just crafting this calendar, and now we're almost halfway now to the month of June. Last commercial. If you have any burning itching question in case we aren't able to answer them in this session, please do raise them in my email address. Again, take a screenshot or take a photo. jonathanyabut@jycbasia.com. But of course, I'll be allotting a Q&A session after this webinar so that your questions don't get easily drowned. And the comments, please type them when we give you the go signal. All right. As usual, we're going to have the following activities spread across the session. I'm going to ask you guys to please type in the chat box. I'm going to be asking you some questions also. They may be polls. So this time it's going to be interactive because we're going to release a poll and you have to answer. And this is exciting because we get to see the results, at least for those who are in Zoom. All right. So for our participants who are on LinkedIn or in YouTube, for example, you won't be able to participate, but you get to see the results and how people react to our questions. And of course, Q&A, as mentioned a while ago, will be at the last part. All right, I'm going to start. Let's get to business. Since the pandemic started, we've seen a handful of changes in the workplace. And if you happen to be familiar because you've experienced it, give me an exclamation point in the chat box, guys. Number one, we've seen a lot of HR folks starting to institutionalize the rotation of workers who need to be in the office. So for example, some participants or some employees are going to be in the office for week 1, and then week 2 and 3 for 2 weeks, they're going to be working from home. And then another batch is going to be back in the office again, so that you have a rotation of participants or employees at the 30% capacity, right? Of course, there are still some companies right now who have 100% of their employees who are working from home. If majority of your operations don't need to be physically present with each other, then we can see that happening. Some popular examples that we see in the news, Facebook and Twitter, for example, has told that their employees are likely going to be working for the rest of 2020. And that's mostly because a lot of their employees don't need to be physically present and need to attend those meetings, right? So that's one. Number two, raise your hand or give an exclamation point if this also applies to you. We see a lot of borders and enclosures now institutionalized in the office. So we see a lot of our HR and procurement teams spending budgets. So I see this not only in fast food and restaurants, but in every office today. I just went to a bank last week and everything had so much plastic in the office as well. So that's a given because precautions about the spread of the disease is going to be tight. Number three, I also expect that companies are going to be allotting more budget on work from home facilities of employees. Again, another popular example outside the Philippines is Google, wherein 2 weeks ago, they announced that they're allotting $1,000. Obviously, that's because they're rich and they got the money. All employees of Google, for example, will receive that amount of money so that they can spend creating their own office space. Wow, isn't that nice? Because in the Philippines, for example, sorry, my phone is ringing up. In the Philippines, for example, you only have a certain group of people who will get that amount, probably 1 month or 2 months worth of salary. But in Google, it's something that they can get for the rest of the year, right? And next one, this is number 4, there will be new rules, meaning the length of meetings, contract tracing of interaction, non-essential travel are going to be institutionalized in the company. I call this, guys, as letter D because I think this is a no-brainer. This is something that is already in place since March. So some of our clients, for example, now have a policy wherein for the rest of 2020, no matter how important your meeting is, we will no longer allow any of our employees to travel for reasons of precautions. All right. One more, I think, just to give an example, if you may have seen the news, Singapore just last week, and that's only because they are around 6 million population only, they started poaching the idea that all of their citizens, all of their 6 million citizens need to wear a special bracelet that will track the movement of all of their citizens from point A to point B so that they get to know which are going to be the hotspots. So it's still being debated right now in the parliament, and it's also a big issue because people don't like their activities being tracked, their mobility, for example. But of course, in some organizations, we are also going to expect these things to be institutionalized. I'll give you one more example, guys. My colleague who's working in a pharmaceutical company in Taiwan, they have a policy today wherein if they are working in the office, they cannot spend 8 hours in the same cubicle. So their goal is after 1 hour, 2 hours, they have to move again to another space. It could be the pantry, it could be another area. And all of their cubicles today are now agile workplace, which means no one owns a permanent station anymore, right? And the reason for that is because they want to circulate the ventilation and they don't want one person to only stay in one place for contamination purposes, right? So I'm sharing this, guys, because this session is not going to be about these types of operations, because these things are a given and these things are easy things that you can see from a manual or a handout. What I'd like to talk about from an HR perspective is the governance in organizations on how you can return your employees back to quote unquote the hashtag new normal. And maybe at the end of the session, after we've shared with you the best practices, you get to ask yourself, does that also apply to my organization? Can I also steal that best practice? If I implement what company X is doing, will that also work for my company Y? And at the end of the day, that's how you create your own policies, by learning from what other organizations have also learned in the past, whether it's a success lesson or a failure lesson, right? Prolonged quarantine will challenge the quote unquote the office. And when I say the office, guys, I'm not just talking about the physical office space. I'm talking about even the virtual office. If you're conducting your sessions on Zoom or in Microsoft Teams, for example, that's your virtual office today, because you log on a daily basis and you congregate with your teammates on a daily basis. Number one, when employees have no one else to turn to, we are going to expect for the rest of 2020 that they will seek help from their employer. What do I mean? In many countries around the world, if their governments are not fast enough to provide help and assistance for their employees, where do you think will the employees get it first? Likely it's going to be the private sector. Likely it's going to be their own employers as well. Such as, for example, if a certain employee needs help because suddenly he's feeling some symptoms, and let's say, for example, hospitalization may be very expensive, the most logical thing to expect is that the employee is going to ask the HR to be the one to spend for his hospitalization. Maybe you can give me an exclamation point if any of you have experienced that so far. But in my next few slides, I will share you guys some trends about HMO policies, which we're going to expect is going to increase, right, in the next few months. All right. So emotional and financial needs will consume the company's resources. Expect that in the year of 2020 and 2021, if companies have saved money from electricity, from utilities, because no one's attending the office, the budget originally allocated to that will now be shifted to COVID-19 related expenses. Right? Number two, we're going to be expecting that virtual meetings will continue. And in fact, it will continue even if a vaccine has already been found. Why so? Because for the past 3 months, we were able to prove to ourselves, guys, that the COVID-19 showed to us proof of concept that working from home is possible. If you go to Google search and you type the keywords working from home, success, productivity, and all these things, you will notice that a lot of CEOs and managers have started to report that they did not see a significant decline in the productivity of their employees. What does this mean? We're all starting to realize that we didn't need to physically meet each other all those years. And I can so sympathize to that, because I hate it when a client calls me for a 1 hour travel to their office only to discover that the meeting was so superficial, it could have been done via a phone call or via a Zoom call. And we're going to see a lot of these things happening for 2020 and 2021. Because now, for the past 3 months, many managers and many leaders who in the past were afraid that they could not trust their employees are now starting to earn the trust, because they've proven to themselves, so it's working after all. Now that I've experienced how it is to work from home for 3 months, I think I can continue doing this for the rest of my career. I'm not saying that majority of the organizations will now be 5 days a week work from home, but it is very possible that companies, even in 2021 or 2022, will start institutionalizing 2 times a week or 3 times a week work from home protocols. And finally, number 3, the office will now change its importance. Before, it was seen as the headquarters where people have to congregate even for the smallest reasons. Today, and at least for 2020, the office will still be there, but it's now going to be an essential working space. And what do I mean by that? HR will now redefine who must be in the office and who can stay at home. So if you're in the real estate property, for example, you might have seen this already in the news. A lot of organizations are now starting to rethink about whether or not they should continue their contracts for the entire space that they needed for their employees. Or in 2021, when they need to renew their office space, do I need to renew but with a smaller requirement this time, right? This is no different in the labor market. Even in the food industry, for example, you will expect that many restaurants will gravitate now towards creating mobile kitchens instead of creating and paying space for people to eat, because a lot of people will now do more takeouts and deliveries, for example. All right? Can you guys give me an exclamation point if you are already starting to feel these things, or if you guys agree that a lot of these things are going to prolong? So it's very interesting because in March or last April, I think many of us are still under that delusion, thinking that this will all end soon, right? We were all thinking like that. So we weren't doing much. We weren't acting on our paranoia, but now things are starting to sink in. Now we have clarity that the vaccine will not be created in the next 15 months. And even if it has been created, and even if it has been approved, there's going to be a lot of issues concerning distribution and who can buy it first. So you can experience that everything we're feeling right now indeed is going to prolong for 2 to 3 years. All right? So to conclude and to end this introduction part, if you guys are familiar with the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, can you give me an exclamation point if you guys are familiar with this? So you've seen this. A lot of HR people are watching this session right now. So you guys are aware that at the bottom of the pyramid is the essentials, right? Food, shelter, I'm going to add their Wi-Fi, or if you love proper air conditioning, I think it's going to be part of that bottom of the pyramid. And as you climb to the top, your needs get met from the most essential to the most abstract. So as you've already been fed, you already have good, proper shelter, you start looking for something else. Love, recognition, and praise. And finally, when you have so much love that you receive from other people, you start giving and sharing that love with others. You become self-actualized. You think about what can you do with your potential so that it can be shared with other people. And I want to apply that Maslow's hierarchy of needs in the hashtag new normal hierarchy of questioning by employees. Meaning, most of our employees right now are anxious. A lot of them have doubts. Will I still have this job? What's going to happen to the economy? Are there going to be new regulations in the industry that might affect how we work? And so as an HR or as a leader who organizes the operations and day-to-day activities of the company, your goal is to be able to answer the following questions. And at the bottom of the pyramid is the more immature the employee is, meaning the employee only thinks about himself or herself. And then it goes up into wearing the corporate hat. So I don't only think about myself, I think about the others as well. Questions such as, what's going to happen to me? Do I feel safe? Will I still have my job? Can I challenge my employer if they ask me to go to the office when I think that my job can still be done at home? Or number two, should I start looking for a new job now? Because I don't know, I may still have this job today, but I don't know if 3 months or 4 months down the line, the economy is still not improving and they might need to cut down on workers, right? Number two is the team. Be able to answer the question of teams. How are the others doing? How can we best work with each other? If I'm from the marketing team and I need to work with the operations or the engineering team, is the company providing us with the right equipment and tools? Such as, for example, small things such as if you're using Zoom, you should be aware by now that Zoom only offers up to 40 minutes for 3 or more people to talk to each other. If you want more than 40-minute conversations, you have to upgrade to the $14 subscription account. So small things such as that, are your employees equipped with the right tool, and are you investing? I'm going to talk about that later on so that they can perform their roles and their duties. And number three is my company. What's the company's plan for the business? How will the company take good care of their employees? So in the Philippines, for example, one of the biggest questions that employers were complaining about is that why is it that the burden of the need to test employee comes in the pockets of the employers when this was allotted in the budget of the government? So small things like this may be questions of HR, but they may be questions, obviously, of employees themselves. So we may not know the stories, but I have a friend who, unfortunately, the company was not also the one who spent for it. The employee was the one who spent 920 pesos to pay for her own COVID-19 testing. So we all have different situations, we all have different norms. But remember, coming from an HR perspective, the goal now is how do we engage our employees if the employees feel that they're not taken good care of by their employer. And finally, the last two is your industry and your economy. So employees are going to be asking the question, beyond myself, beyond the company, will there be any new regulations? How will they affect our industry? How can our lives be back to normal? Or does the company need to invest in something else? If before the company was selling in brick and mortar stores, should the company now invest in digital technology so that it can sell its services? Does that mean that my company has to be in Lazada? Does that mean that my company has to create a Facebook page? So you may notice by now, if you're from the insurance or real estate industry, one of the biggest struggles of sales agents is that they cannot physically interact with their clients. Neither can they look for new prospects because they could not touch anyone. So the goal now is equipping your sales agents. How can we use digital technology to perform our duties? I want you guys to hold an imaginary dart, and I want you guys to pin it on the screen and ask yourself, in my organization today, where do you think does your company fall into when it comes to answering the questions? Is it on the me level? And I hope not, because the me level is the most superficial part. If your company hasn't even answered this part, or you as an HR, then you might get in trouble, guys, because you're just halfway, right, in getting things done. Or are you in the company level? Or hopefully you're in the industry level, right? So we all have different stories. If you are in HR, if you're a hiring manager, your goal is to elevate that level from the me to the industry or to the economy. All right? So let's start. What are the next steps now? John, could you please share what are the best practices and trends? Or what are the things to look out for if I'm operationalizing my office and my workplace? And trend number one, I've mentioned this a while ago, but I want to demonstrate more examples now. Employees will rely more on their employers for safety nets. And we're expecting this if you're coming from a developing country when the government cannot provide quick and immediate assistance. So now my question to the private sector and to companies is, did you budget for this too? When I say budget, for example, a lot of employees are now asking, can the company provide salary loans? Because your employee might be okay, but the husband of your employee has been laid off. And that can affect her mental rigidity and therefore her performance as well. So this is where I say now, guys, if before the goal of any company is only to provide security in performance, you also now have to cover the mental security of your employees. Because if they don't feel mentally secure, then they're not going to be in their best performance as well. So maybe anyone can give me an exclamation point. Has your company at least discussed what financial assistance can you offer to your employees if in case someone needs that help? So I understand we all have different stories. The bigger your organization is or the bigger your company is, the more that your organization can provide for it. And I also understand that not all SMEs and small companies can easily provide that for their employees. So that's one. The number two is emotional and mental support. The best practice today is to make sure that you don't just leave your employees getting their job done. The best practice is conducting a lot of workshops. It could also be in the form of webinars, and trying to make sure that your employees are resilient mentally and emotionally, right? I hope you guys do that because that's the trend today in a lot of multinational companies. They conduct a lot of sessions in helping their employees emotionally cope, teaching them frameworks. How often should I talk to my friends? How should I see things when I feel like I'm anxious and panicking? What could be the psychological frameworks that I can apply in order for me not to feel uneasy? So we've seen, for example, in again, you can go to Google search, depression and mental health is going to be a big issue in the next 2 years because people could not look for that help easily, especially when you're living alone or when you're not when you're detached with the rest of society. And finally, number three, which I think is the most important part because this is resource draining for a lot of HR. Have you talked already to your HMO providers on what is going to be the future arrangement in case you file for a claim? And the reason why I'm saying this, guys, is because remember, not all companies have enough resources to provide individual insurance for an employee. For example, a lot of small companies and even the BPOs or call centers operate in a way that they have a group insurance plan, right? So group insurance plan is different from individual insurance plan. Group insurance plan assumes that you all contribute and hope to God that only 2, 3, or 5 is going to make a claim. Why? Because that claim is going to consume all the contributions of the other employees. So I'll give an example. If you have a call center that has 5,000 employees, each of them contributing, let's say, 10,000 pesos budgeted by you, the moment one employee has cancer and will end up spending 4 or 5 million pesos for that insurance, that 5 million will be eaten up by the contributions of other employees. That's how group insurance plans work. My question is, have you discussed already with your HMO provider, number one, if COVID-19 related expenses are covered, or number two, what's going to be the arrangement for group insurance plan or for individual insurance plan? So I'm knocking on wood here because I hope it doesn't apply to you in the future, but it's best to be prepared now versus probably being shocked that your company does not have enough budget and yet you promised in the employment contract of your organization that your employees will get it. I think the deeper question even to ask here is, are your employees expecting it because they think they deserve it? Or number two, because I know that this happens to some companies, I know some companies who started in March 2020, started disclaiming to their employees that we will only cover up to this amount of insurance if in case you get COVID-19, right? So be careful about that because your employee will end up asking these things from you. So I see some responses a while ago. Some people are saying, no, the only coverage is for PhilHealth. At least you know, right? At least you know the limit so you can mentally prepare your employees up to what point is only going to be covered by the expense of the company, right? I'm also saying this, guys, because at the end of the day, these things will matter in affecting a lot of things in the company, such as, for example, if you conduct engagement survey results among employees by end of the year, how you were treating your employees will affect how they will answer those engagement survey results. Because for them, how I was treated is how I think they took good care of my future, right? Number two, you're going to be expecting, if you are an HR, that majority of your future candidates will start asking this question, such as, may I please ask, what were your next steps and plan of actions when the COVID-19 happened? And the reason for that is because candidates today are going to be very tricky. Before they say yes to an application, they want to make sure that their insurance and health and all these things are covered by the company. So if you are an interviewer, make sure that you have aligned proper skills in telling to everyone what are your benefits, what did you do, did you even involve yourself in charitable acts, for example, because that affects number three, which is what you did during COVID-19 will reflect on you as an employer in terms of your corporate brand. And as we all know, every HR employee is also a marketing employee. You are brand ambassadors projecting the best image that when you want to ask for candidates to apply, they think that you are a great company to apply for. All right. I'm saying this because my sister is about to enter into a new job because she just finished university. So I told her that when you do your job interviews and when HR asks you, do you have any questions for me? My tip to her was that, well, you make sure that you ask questions such as, what are your arrangements if ever your employees get sick because of COVID-19? Because these things can affect you at the end of the day, right? Can I do a quick poll and maybe we can release this now to the participants? So for those who are on Zoom, please click your choice. Are you confident that your sales employees can sell remotely? Can they maximize technology to engage clients? Because I'm now moving to my trend number 2 when it comes to technology quotient.
Okay, right. Zoom participants, please answer the question, the poll question number 1. Are you confident that your sales employees can sell remotely? So A, if yes, we are helping them learn how to use them. B, no, we're still struggling how to use them. And C, no, we don't need it much at work. So let's find out what the answer will be. Can you see how many percent are already answering the poll question, Jonathan, from your end?
Yep, I do. Okay. Jeff, maybe we can share the results now if you can publish. There you go. All right. So 60%, more than half, are saying yes, we are helping them learn how to use them. Very good, guys, because that means you are all investing time, effort, and money. And remember, these are not costs. And your choice of words do matter, because if you choose the word cost, then you're seeing it as if you're regretting that you spent on them. When in fact, guys, the more you invest on it, the more will the returns be faster when it comes to equipping your people to deliver what they need to deliver. All right, very good. We're going to have more polls later on. So here's trend number 2. And I asked that question because it has something to do with trend number 2. The trend is that companies will continue to spend money in technologies enabling virtual communications, and also, which I'm not a big fan of, but I think a lot of companies will need this, behavior monitoring. The ability of managers and leaders to find out whether their people are really doing their job because they cannot see them physically. So you guys are already familiar with your corporate account subscriptions. Maybe you can type on chat box. Can you please tell me if your company has started to use live streaming or online meeting platforms? And could you please type in the chat box, what are your brands right now? Are you guys using Zoom? Are you guys using MS Teams? All right, so some people are using Microsoft Teams, people are using Zoom, some people are using WebEx, for example. Some people are using Google Meet. Yep. Very good. Some people are also using Facebook, by the way, because if you're using Workplace, the brand Workplace by Facebook, then you can use the Facebook rooms, right? But looking at all the responses, it seems like Zoom is the most preferred. All right, very good. So the question now is, guys, how far is your company investing on it? One example would be, I'm about to do a talk later for an insurance company, and the company invested a subscription account wherein 5,000 people can be on Zoom, which, by the way, is very expensive because the payment is on a monthly subscription fee. All right. Yep. So someone said Zoom can be hacked. IT tells us. Yep. Zoom can be hacked, and so does Microsoft Teams. So does all other platforms. It is a matter of how good your IT also is. Right. All right. Number 2 is monitoring and measurement technology. So there are so many apps right now and many softwares that allow you, for example, to check how long has been the employee spending time in front of the screen. There are also many apps and softwares that check, is your employee checking a lot of social media accounts that are not related to their jobs, which can be an indicator that they are not giving their best. All right. So I have my reservations about this because if your employees are doing that, then it's a symptom of something else and not just because they are delinquent in their jobs. And finally, number 3, the skills of a lot of employees today is going to be different from the skill requirements in the past. Simple things such as if you are an interviewer in job screening, I think it's very staple these days to ask questions such as, how good is your technology quotient? Are you tech savvy? Because in the next 2 or 3 years, the employees who will perform fast and perform well are tech savvy enough such that even if the company changes the softwares, the mobile apps, and all these things, the employee is able to adjust fast. So again, if you're in the sales or in the marketing positions, all of our traditional books on how to sell and how to market have now been thrown away. Why? Because a lot of them are not applicable in the next 6 months, right? If you need to, let's say you're from a multi-level marketing company, and now before you were collecting money in checks, you were seeing a client face to face. These things are different now because you have to engage the client instead via Zoom, via Microsoft Teams. And even the skills are going to be different. How you talk and your choice of words is going to be a different skill versus when you use body language to charm a customer face to face. So they're all going to be different, and the company has to invest on those upskilling, right? Here's a question I'd like to ask, and maybe we can again, Jeff, look at the poll. Do you wish that you can find ways that you can track the progress of your employees working at home?
Okay, Zoom participants, please answer the question. Well, question number 2, do you say yes or no? Please type in, not type in the question at the chat box, but answer the poll question. Let's find out what will the answer be.
All right, let's share the results. Okay, so majority, I'm not surprised. Yes, you wish that you can track the progress of your employee. And this is not rocket science, guys. It would be great to know, because if ever your employees were not able to fulfill the report, were not able to meet the deadline, you'd like to understand why. And it's not just because you want to scold them, it's because you want to find ways, how can I therefore help you if you're not meeting your deadlines? How can I therefore help you if you're not meeting your sales quota? Right? Okay. Can you please type in the chat box, because they've been around for quite some time. What are your favorite tools in monitoring the behaviors of your employees? Could you please type? I just want to see what you guys have been using. Anyone? All right. So someone says Google Drive, which is my favorite, by the way, also. Productivity report. A friend of mine is working also in the call center industry, but now they were allowed to bring home their laptops so that they can work from home. And one of the things that they use is called Screen Doctor, which means any time of the day, your manager can peek your screen and see what exactly you're doing, right? I'm not a big fan of this because it feels very Orwellian. It feels very monitoring, to the point that it seems like your manager doesn't trust you. But again, to each his own. It could be a different culture. It could be a need from the company. All right. All right, so I want to share one example. So a lot of you wrote Google Drive, and Google Drive is one of my favorite apps, not just for storing, but it's also, and a lot of people miss this out, it's also a tool for monitoring. Why? Because if you've uploaded, let's say, a Microsoft document, you don't need to send it to anyone via email. What you do instead is that you upload it into a folder, and the folder can now be accessed by anyone that you authorized the sharing grant to, right? Also, what we know about Google Drive is that the moment, and I'm going to share you guys a screenshot, the moment someone uploads a file, you get a rich set of information, such as what time did the person upload it, right? Who exactly opened or modified that document, right? And I like this, guys, because the more that your employees are aware, without explicitly telling them that their behaviors are being monitored, then they themselves become responsible because they know that they have to step up, right? Here's another one. So just to give you a screenshot, if you guys haven't used Google Drive yet, you guys are missing a lot. And it's been like more than 5 years now since Google Drive has been around. My company has been mostly remote in our work, and we're very thankful because the product is for free. The only time that you need to pay, and my company only pays 500 pesos if you want to upgrade it to 2 terabytes worth of storage, right? But otherwise, 1 gigabyte, which by the way is already a lot, is for free. The only catch, of course, with Google Drive is that you need to have a Google account. Likely it's going to be your Gmail, right? So you guys will notice it will see a lot of things such as who was the last person who opened it, what day, which person specifically from your team, down to the names and to the timestamps. And yeah, these things allow you to monitor the behavior. Another one that I like, and you probably are using this, guys, because it's a very popular one, is Sidekick. So Sidekick allows you to schedule your emails. Sidekick also tells you down to the detail which employee opened the email, what time did the employee open the email, and you can even find out if the employee clicked the link that you typed in the email, right? So all of these analytics are very rich because knowing how your employees behave at home can help you design programs to incentivize them to be further productive. And again, Sidekick is for free. It's an app that you can embed in your Gmail, right? Okay. I want to do a quick plug, by the way, because someone sent me a message a while ago. John, when it comes to other tools, do you offer other premium webinars? And yes, I'm offering my own premium webinar happening on June 19 and 20, how to launch your own online store. But online store can mean your own database, your own way of collecting information. And we're doing that via Google Forms on June 19 and also via Lazada on June 20. So if you guys are interested, you can just go to my website, jonathanyabut.com, and the details and the outline of what will be discussed is going to be shared in that link. All right. Here's one more, guys. Speaking of upskilling your employees on how to use social media, if you're in a company that has a lot of sales agents who need to sell online, we're doing a master class, by the way, and I'm plugging this in partnership with Ariva Academy. That's happening on June 24. And you can just ask anyone from Ariva Academy later on how to register, but they're also all available in the website. Okay, halfway now. Can I still get some energy, guys? Can you please type your exclamation points again if you're learning something? All right, very good. Thank you. Very good. And I hope you guys have a lot of aha, let me try that out in my company, or aha, that validates my theory. Because that's the point of this session when we share best practices. I want to ask another poll. Does your team respect quiet time for lunch, weekends, and after office hours, even during the time of the pandemic?
Okay, encourage every participant here in the Zoom room. Is it A, yes, as much as possible? B, no. The rules have become more loose, or C, yes, we follow, but workload is just a lot lately. All right.
Okay, let's share the results. Okay, well, majority are respecting time, which is very good, guys. It's not a very strong majority because it's only 51%, but nevertheless, I'm very happy to know that. And the reason why I'm sharing that is because we know today that any employee can be prone to abuse of overloading work. Why? The impression now of any manager is that, well, you're not going to the office anymore, which means you're not wasting 2 hours of the morning and 2 hours of the evening commuting. So a lot of managers have this impression thinking that their employees now have extra 4 hours of time in their hands that they can use for work, which is not necessarily true, guys, because in the age of COVID-19, we may have more time now for work, but our burdens for our personal lives, because of all the inconveniences, may have also increased, which means as an HR, your role is to also put that allowance. Like March, April, and May, those allowances were very important for people to thrive. So the trend number 4 now is that I'd like to encourage companies to put more structure on working hours for work from home. Why is this? We are all misled to think that just because we're now working from home, it's now okay to make a call during lunchtime. We all have we're all made to mislead ourselves that, well, we're all locked up in our homes. It's still okay to set up telecon even at 6 p.m. or 7 p.m. But not true, guys, because that exhaustion still exists among employees. So things such as, which I highly recommend, create discussions and agreements, such as you can tell your teams, nothing changes, by the way. Our work remains to be the same 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. structure, which means if it's lunch break, and if our lunch break is 12 o'clock to 1 o'clock, I want everyone in the team to respect that. Avoid setting up telecons, avoid setting up Zoom calls, and don't expect people to reply fast by 12:30 p.m. because I want them to enjoy lunchtime even if they're working from home. Because we're all still human beings, guys. We did not convert into robots. And so rest remains to be important. Another example I'd like to share. So in my company, I have a tendency to send a message even if it's after dinner. And I want to send that message not because I want people to act on my message, but because sometimes as a business owner, I have a tendency to have creative juices in my mind that I don't want to forget. So in order for me to park those ideas, I will float them in my WhatsApp group with my employees, but I will make a disclaimer and I'll say, guys, if I send a WhatsApp message after 9 p.m. or after 8 p.m., please don't be stressed or pressured that you have to respond to it. Because I want to make sure that your evenings are still kept sacred. I'm only saying this because I want to make sure I don't forget it. So at least you spare them from the stress. Because remember, guys, seeing another message on Viber or seeing another inbox, your inbox go from 100 to suddenly 130 in just a span of 15 minutes can be very stressful and mentally draining. Right? Or if you are a manager, reflect. Ask yourself from time to time, am I giving more workload because there's more work in reality? Or is it just because I feel bad that they're not giving enough? And there's a big difference there, right? So if you're giving them workload for the sake of giving them workload, you're not fulfilling the real role of a manager. If you want to give them additional workload, make sure it contributes to the bottom line, not because you just want them to look busy, right? So here are things. John, how can we institutionalize that? Well, number one, creating a company-wide or a team-wide rule matters because culture starts with policies and vice versa. But if it's not written, if it's not organized, people will not take it seriously. So a company-wide or a team-wide rule can help. Another one, I want to encourage that leaders, vice presidents, and even you as a manager, you're supposed to be the role model. If you want your people to respect the time, then if you have to start it on your own, be the first one to avoid sending those emails or sending those invitations also during lunchtime or even during weekends, right? And I think we can be more forgiving now because 3 months ago, things were really in chaos. But June, July, August is going to be the start of things starting to settle down. So I think this is where the structuring of time is now more expected. And finally, number 3, you can socialize quiet time during conversations. When I say socialize quiet times, when you talk to your employees, insert those message that gives them the idea that I respect your time, right? Such as, for example, hi, John, I know that you have something to submit on Thursday or Friday, but it seems like the data coming from the finance department will not be available that time. If you need to deprioritize that project to next week, please do so, right? And sometimes, guys, it takes the manager to be the one to initiate these conversations rather than waiting for your employees to do it. Because as we all know, in a lot of Asian cultures, in a lot of Filipino cultures, most employees feel that they cannot challenge or speak up to their own managers or bosses, right? I'm not a big fan of this, but it happens. So sometimes you have to be the one to initiate the conversation to them. All right? One more commercial, all right? Sorry, marami kaming commercials for this free webinar. Another in partnership with Ariva Academy. So if you'd like to learn more about working smart, not just hard, because that's the intention of making your employees more productive, we're doing another masterclass webinar happening on Zoom. That's June 17, Wednesday, 4 to 6 p.m. And again, just contact your Ariva partner if you'd like to enroll your employees. All right, trend number 5. And for me, this is my favorite part because soft skills is the most challenging. There is no rule book, unfortunately, for soft skills. There's going to be a rule book that you can download on the internet on how to engineer or create an architect of your acrylic plastics all across the office. You can download and watch those on videos, but soft skills are going to be hard because soft skills will depend on the design of who your employees are. So what we're going to be seeing in the next 6 months or the next year is that skill sets will supersede positions. We do not see employees anymore as, he's the marketing guy. But rather, this will evolve into seeing that employee as, he's not just a marketing guy. He's that guy who can use this software. He's that guy who can create a campaign. He's that guy who, even if he is a marketing manager, can also become a training manager. Why are we saying this? We're saying it because in times of downsizing, if ever it happens, employees will be asked to stretch their scope of work, meaning they signed up for a position 2 years ago, but because of the business need, they're now going to be asked by their employer to do something else. What does this mean? The employees that will be the most valuable in your company are employees with the most versatile skills. Those who can do more beyond what they're being asked for, or those who have hidden talents, if I may use that phrase, that can make the company think, so if you can't do that, perhaps you don't need to hire someone else and we can create a dual role out of you instead. Of course, hashtag or open and close parenthesis, I hope you compensate your employees properly if you do that. Another one, we are going to expect that employers will not, as much as they did before, resort to hiring full-time employees. We're going to be expecting some employers to use instead project-based employees, meaning I don't need to contract you for long-term. If the project is doable in 6 months or 1 year, it's safer for my cash flow and also for my liability instead to hire a project-based employee, right? And finally, number 3, here's where I'm going to challenge HR managers again when it comes to interviewing. When hiring candidates in the future, don't be fixated looking at their resumes, thinking that this is all that they can do. You also look at for the versatility of skills or the attitude and the resilience to embrace change. Why is this important? Because no matter how well decorated is the resume of the employee, if the employee cannot face changes such as, for example, John, you're a marketing guy, I'm going to ask you now to transfer to sales. Those will happen more often now in COVID-19. The guys from finance, but you also want the finance guy to be able to train 50 other finance associates using Zoom, for example. So it's going to be versatility of skills, not just positions of what they signed up for. A few interview questions that are coming about lately, and here's something that you can apply if you're about to hire a candidate. When I have a candidate who's applying for a job in my company, in JY Consultancy and Ventures, I ask them this mathematical question. And the question is, what is 25 times 28? Could you guys please answer that? Anyone? Takes you a while, right? So don't worry, you don't need to answer it correctly. But I ask this question regardless if your position that you're applying for is technical or creative. Why? Because I want to see how you react. I want to see how you react because you'll be surprised whenever I ask this question to candidates, there are candidates who will be violent in their reactions, saying, why are you asking me this question? I did not apply for a math position. And there are going to be employees who are calm and collected. And instead they will say, may I please ask why you are asking this question? I will compute it for you, but I'd like to know why. And between those two types of employees, we prefer the latter. We prefer the latter because the first one, when things get tough, ambiguous, and out of his expectations, he easily loses it. We prefer the latter because that employee gives us the impression that even if things can go wrong or things change, he knows how to handle it with calm and composure and grace. And you want those kinds of employees because they are the kinds of employees who will adapt to change rather than resist to change. Another question I'd like to ask, so prior to COVID-19, if you work in the airline industry, a lot of cabin crew members are required to build a tent for 15 minutes with 3 other job applicants. The reason here is because the trend of job interviewing is now moving away from asking categorical questions or qualitative questions into simulating questions. Questions that try to give you an idea how the person will perform in real life, right? So pre-COVID-19, this question is asked because they want to know how that cabin crew works and collaborates with other teammates, right? Because when you build a tent and it's time pressured for 15 minutes, it becomes so stressful that your personality, including the bad ones, will come out. So it's a way of testing how this cabin crew will treat passengers or her fellow cabin crew, for example. So when you do your job interviews or when you promote someone internally, don't just look at the skills that they possess. Look at how those skills can be stretched to something else, because we don't know, guys, unfortunately, if the worst is already done, right? I hope it is. I hope we're flattening the curve. I hope that if it's true according to the news that the virus is starting to be weaker. I don't know if those things were true, but we don't know if things will still get worse, especially in the Philippines when we've yet to face another round of typhoon and floods and all these things. Those will probably even make COVID-19 worse, right? Or another question, who is your favorite character in the film blank and why? So letting them answer these questions gives you an idea how they think. How do they perceive the world? What are their philosophies in life, for example, that you cannot get if you keep on asking questions about their resume? All right. And with that, I'm going to ask for one last bout of energy, guys. Could you please have an exclamation point before we go for a Q&A session? All right. And with that, I'm going to open the floor now, exactly at 5 p.m. So Howell, maybe we can start getting questions from the crowd.
Well, thank you, Jonathan, Alan, Yabut, for the very informative workshop or a webinar that you have just facilitated. Thank you so much.